I was recommended this channel by my Discord server, and I don't know what to expect here other than some serious right-wing, I guess standard Trump dick riding. This is a channel called Black Conservative Perspective. I guess he had to call himself Black Conservative Perspective because with the takes he has, he couldn't exactly call himself Black Perspective and not be falsely advertising. But yeah, we're going to be diving into one of those like hardcore virtue signaling into the idpol Black Conservative channels. One of my favorite brands of content, because we're either dealing with someone who is severely, genuinely brain-rotted, or we're dealing with someone who is blatantly grifting and pandering to a demographic they know can easily be pandered to. It's hard to tell, so I guess a little game we'll make out of this segment is trying to figure out which kind of channel this one is as we watch it. But of course, before we dive right on into it, if you end up enjoying this video, be sure to leave a like and a comment down below. It really does help a lot. Subscribe and ring the bell icon if you want to see more from me in the future. And leave a hype on the video if you've commented enough in the past on my stuff to unlock it. It really does boost my videos in the algorithm. And of course, if you don't know what to comment down below, comment white conservative cringe. If you just don't know what to comment, it really does help, and I appreciate it. Without any further ado, let's just dive straight into it.
As we predicted, this far right...
Oh, how could I forget? The video is called Liberals Go into Full-Blown Panic Over the Supreme Court Preparing to Give Trump Biggest Win Ever. So yeah, when I say this guy's a Trump dick rider, I'm not just pulling that out of my ass. And this is, I think, someone the video is responding to.
Wing Supreme Court has issued a ruling that it is going to allow those racist Texas congressional maps to move forward to 2026. Remember, Donald Trump called the governor of Texas and said he wanted 5 seats. The Department of Justice issued the letter claiming that Texas congressional maps were unconstitutional.
As much as this sounds like a win for Trump, it's not, because this is the policy in California, for instance, and several other blue states, is that they're only going to gerrymander if Texas and Florida, and I think a couple of other red states, vote to gerrymander themselves. So now in response to this, it's a self-own. California is now going to gerrymander, and I think a handful of other really blue states are now going to gerrymander as well. The deal was, if the Republicans decide to play dirty on this, we will too. I love that.
Constitutional because race was a factor. And so he called a special session. The Republicans led it. Remember, the Democrats walked out. But we told y'all, and I hope all those Democrats in Texas, all those Democrats who punked out, who did not want to stay out, and they could have stayed out. Oh, we don't know how long they can stay out. And they said, well, we think if we do this and we come back and they pass the maps, then, we're going to be able to, the Supreme Court is going to freeze the maps in place. And even though there was a lower court ruling declaring that race was indeed a factor, the Supreme Court is going to allow it to move forward. And the Supreme Court has ruled, that they say that the plaintiffs more than likely are not going to win on this particular merits.
Is that Ronald Martin? He's not MAGA at all? Yeah, half of chat doesn't understand what's happening here because they're not paying attention. They haven't picked up on the fact that this is a video from a base progressive newscaster covering the situation that we're having stitched. We're gonna have the right-wing slop stitched after this as a response
Of the case.
Boy.
There we go. There we go. I didn't even pre-watch.
Oh, we got to talk about the Supreme Court getting ready to deliver more bad news to Democrats and liberals, or so they think, okay? Because yesterday we just talked about the Supreme Court dropping a bombshell on Democrats and their blue wave plans by allowing Texas to move forward with
their blue wave plans. What, people voting for Democrats? Yeah, the Republicans are going to make it harder for the democratic process to elect Democrats because people are voting Democrat more. Yeah, your blue wave plans are being cut short, Democrats.
With maps that Democrats claim are racist, okay? And they claim that the last maps, the 2021 maps that Texas drew were racist. And now Democrats are suing because of the new maps that Texas created, and they're claiming that they're racist as well, too. So it's really damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Basically, racist just means whatever Democrats disagree with, right? If Democrats disagree with what Republicans are doing, then it's racist, okay? Because, again, the old maps are racist, the new maps are racist, and because of that, Democrats are in full-blown panic about the Supreme Court.
So this guy's just a full-on moron or leaning into the brand of being a moron. So he's just pretending there is no racist map drawing when it comes... Okay, so for those that are not aware, voter ID laws in concept are not a bad thing, right? Like you should have to prove that you are you to vote. I think most people agree on that. And we do that. We have some pretty decent systems set up for that, and there has been no widespread proven voter fraud of any kind, especially not in recent years. So show the evidence of it, and we can have that conversation. They have failed to do so up to this point. There is that. But when it comes to voter ID laws, typically this involves changing the qualifications and the accepted kinds of ID to be able to vote. And more often than not, this is done by Republicans who make policy specifically knowing what kinds of IDs Black people and Hispanic people and any other non-white group they know doesn't vote for them, whatever IDs they use the most, whatever form of identification they most commonly use to get admissed to vote, they will try to strike that off as a usable form of ID and require a new form of ID of any kind, whatever new form of ID they can require. If it requires hoops to jump through to get a different kind of ID so you can vote, that is enough to cull a significant amount of people who would have otherwise voted Democrat out of the electorate. And this has been done numerous times. In fact, previous Supreme Courts have come to the conclusion that past Republican legislatures that have tried to pass voter ID laws in red southern states were doing it to surgically target Black people, I believe was the wording they used once. Like, this is not a secret. And this goes back a long way. It's not even just in recent history. The districts as they're drawn up today, the reason they're so funkily shaped, the term gerrymander comes from the fact that Republican, conservative racists would draw up district lines to avoid Black and brown people from having representation. Like, this was done explicitly. Is he going to start denying that redlining happened next?
Allowing Texas to move forward with what they call racist maps, because apparently Democrats wanted to go back to the prior racist maps.
Here we are. You know, Chris, in one of my former lives, I was not a lawyer, but I was the comms person and the senior advisor for what at one point was the largest funder of voting rights litigation in the country, the Priorities USA Foundation. And our lawyer that was leading that work at the time was Mark Elias. Now everybody knows Mark Elias, Elias Law Group. He is one of the foremost authorities on voting rights in this country. I will say what struck me about this particular ruling from the Supreme Court, and we should underscore that this is not a ruling on the merits. This ruling just says, oh, it's too soon. You know, the map can stay for right now, and we can decide the underlying merits later, which I think is quite telling. But what also struck me here is that the court is essentially saying, oh, Texas said they drew this for partisan motives. And so we think that's okay. They're using partisan motives as a cover for racial gerrymandering. I believe, and Lisa Rubin can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe even the court in its unsigned majority ruling notes that gives California, right, as an example here, understanding that California has a case that is going before the Supreme Court that will be argued next week about these very things. California says it wasn't for racial reasons, it was partisan reasons in response to Texas. And the justices, the majority, is essentially saying that's okay. My concern is that there is a history of racial discrimination and racial gerrymandering and racial disadvantages when it comes to drawing maps in this country, particularly, not exclusively, but particularly in places in the South. If the Supreme Court is now giving a green light to say,
is the guy going to actually deny this history that is not even close to contested by historians?
Well, if you say it's partisan motives and you don't say it's racial, we're going to take that on face value. And it allows racial gerrymandering, the literal disadvantages of people based on their skin color, cutting people up in terms of voting based on their skin color. I think that that's problematic in this country.
Yeah, Simone Sanders. You think that it is problematic to draw districts based off race, right? Racial gerrymandering is problematic, except liberals, Democrats, and including liberal Supreme Court justices argue in the Supreme Court case about the Voting Rights Act that, it is likely that this Supreme Court is going to take a sledgehammer to. They literally argue that, we actually do need race-based districts, right? We do need majority Black districts because according to individuals like Ketanji Brown Jackson,
I know exactly what he's referring to. They were referring to voter rights. They're literally referring to black people in these districts having the ability to vote, because if they have their ability to vote taken away by voter ID laws, then it'll be a blatant act to try and stymie the Democratic voter base, to try and consolidate power with the Republicans. They aren't talking about needing to gerrymander districts on racial lines there. They're talking about within the pre-existing district borders, needing to empower the voter rights of black people that live within them. You fucking liar.
Being black is like being disabled. I'm not joking. This is what Democrats
yes, the bigotry of low
arguing,
expectations.
while at the same time claiming that racial gerrymandering is bad, except when it's done to the advantage of Democrats.
That's right. And in the state of Louisiana, that analysis was conducted in the Nairn case, and it was clear that regardless of party, white Democrats were not voting for black candidates, whether they were Democrats or not. And we know that there is such a significant chasm between how black and white voters vote in Louisiana that there's no question that even if there is some correlation between race and party, that race is the driving factor.
A reason to think that a racial group is being treated
here too. You have proof of that here.
I love that the elephant in the room in all these conversations is that the Republicans just can't get black people to vote for them, so persistently they just want to take away black people's right to vote. Like, black people are just the one demographic that Republicans have scorned so badly through history. They cannot, for the life of them, gaslight black people into supporting them in any significant, meaningful number. So it's the fastest way to getting what they want is to just try and disenfranchise black people, take their voting rights away.
No, you don't. What you have here is that Republicans and Democrats are different. There's no...
You have some that even white Republicans or white Democrats won't vote for black candidates.
Right, but if these were white Democrats, there's no reason to think they would have a second district. None. And so what is happening here is their argument is because these Democrats happen to be black, they get a second district. If they were all white, we all agree they wouldn't get a second district. That is literally the definition.
I'm gonna be honest, either gerrymandering should be fully banned or it should just be done by both parties. Like, I'm not going to do the whole, like, the Republicans can get away with murder, but if the Democrats breathe the wrong way, then we need to go up their asshole. I don't buy it. I'm not going to play by that rule set, and it's a bullshit rule set. The whole grading Trump and the Republicans on a curve, they can do no wrong, always got to give them the benefit of the doubt. No, I'm not playing that game.
Of race subordinating traditional principles.
I guess I'm thinking of it, of the fact that remedial action, absent discriminatory intent, is really not a new idea in the civil rights laws. And my kind of paradigmatic example of this is something like the ADA. Congress passed the Americans with Disabilities Act against the backdrop of a world that was generally not accessible to people with disabilities. And so it was discriminatory in effect because these folks were not able to access these buildings. And it didn't matter whether the person who built the building or the person who owned the building intended for them to be exclusionary. That's irrelevant. Congress said the facilities have to be made equally open to people with disabilities if readily possible. I guess I don't understand why that's not what's happening here. The idea in Section 2 is that we are responding to current day manifestations of past and present decisions that disadvantage minorities and make it so that they don't have equal access to the voting system, right? They're disabled. In fact, we use the word disable in Milligan. We say that's a way in which...
Oh, he's gonna latch onto that so hard, man. He's gonna latch onto that so hard and completely pretend to miss her point, isn't he?
You see that these processes are not equally open.
Wow, incredible. Absolutely incredible. I just want you guys to understand how this works, right? Liberals, the analysts on BS Now, CNN, right, they will go on national television and boohoo, whine, and cry about racial gerrymandering while at the same time arguing to the Supreme Court and having liberal Supreme Court justices argue as well, too. No, actually, racial gerrymandering is necessary because black people are disabled, right? Apparently.
Yep, just completely, just pretend to miss the point. Absolutely grifting and pretending to miss the point. Absolutely.
Being black is a disability in this country, according to a black Supreme Court justice, by the way.
Yeah, she explained it very concisely, by the way. In fact, she explained it very, very well, that racism and the systems that have been constructed by racists going back hundreds of years in this country are not just evaporated. They weren't Thanos snapped away overnight, and their impacts on the black community have been undeniable and apparent, and that those effects need to be accounted for when it comes to providing black Americans with their voting rights, because the right to vote is the most important right one of the most important rights Americans have.
Not Clarence Thomas, okay, the guy that they claim is selling out black folks, but the liberal woman.
Yeah, to be fair, he might be the disabled one.
Right, the liberal black woman thinks that black people are disabled, and because white Democrats are so racist that they won't vote for black folks. So therefore, majority black districts are necessary, right?
That is true. White Democrats, well, that's actually not true. White Democrats voted for Obama in pretty great numbers. It's hard to say they're too racist to vote for a black person after Obama, right? Like, I'd say white Democrats aren't too racist to vote for a black person, but I'd say America is probably too sexist to vote for a woman. At least that's what evidence has suggested so far.
Democrats should be allowed to have racially drawn lines in red states to guarantee that black people have representation in Congress, okay? And it just so happens that these individuals are going to be black, which means that they're likely going to be Democrat because black people vote for Democrats at a 90% clip.
Why? Why is that, by the way? Why is that after so many hundreds of billions, probably, of dollars invested by the Republican institutional machine, why is it that black people at a 90% rate or whatever are still falling in line with voting Democrat consistently? Why will they not budge? Are there maybe some very valid reasons that have perhaps already been mentioned by the people you're strawmanning in this video about why black people, like, why could that be that black people vote for Democrats at a 90% rate?
Yes, that's what's going on here. That is the psyop, the scam that the liberal media and Democrats are running on the American people who they think are dumb, right? Out of one side of their mouth, they'll say, well, Republicans are being racist with gerrymandering, right? When it doesn't benefit them, right? But when it benefits them, we need racial gerrymandering. Why? Because get that.
Why? Because the right has done this for way longer, and I'm tired of the left is no longer doing the whole they go low, we go high thing. If you guys are just going to keep going low, we're going to go low too. You can bitch about it and call hypocrisy, but after decades, in some cases centuries, of your side playing that game, like, can you really blame us? It's worked so well for you. Why shouldn't we do it too? Why is it bad now that we're doing it? That's the real question. You can frame the question how you want to, but you've been doing it. Now we're doing it. Why is it bad now that we're doing it? That should be the real question, my friend.
Protects Democrat power and control. Everything is about Democrat power and control. So, again, they're claiming we have a problem with partisan gerrymandering. That's also racist. But yet, they love partisan gerrymandering and racial gerrymandering when it benefits them. That's how the game works. So, we're going to see. Supreme Court likely going to deliver some bad news, somewhat bad news to Democrats when it comes to the Voting Rights Act. They just delivered bad news when it came to the Texas maps. Now, they're about to deliver more bad news, all right? Well, so it seems. We're going to see exactly what happens here because they just decided that they're going to take up President Trump's executive order regarding birthright citizenship, which, again, is a huge one. So without further ado, roll this clip because liberals are in full-blown panic over this. Take a look.
We have breaking news out of...
I love how it's like, guys, liberals are in full-on panic over this. People are gonna suffer. Time to celebrate on my million sub YouTube channel.
The Supreme Court. Let's go to our CNN chief Supreme Court analyst, Joan Biskupic, who is in the newsroom. What's happening, Joan?
Supreme Court just this minute, Brianna, announced it's going to take up challenge to President Trump's order lifting birthright citizenship. You might remember on January 20th, his first day in office, he took his Sharpie pen and he said, this is a big one. And what he did was he tried to eliminate the automatic birthright citizenship that all Americans have had for more than a century. And what that does, it goes to the 14th Amendment of the Constitution that says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. That means that anyone who's born here, Brianna, automatically becomes a U.S. citizen. And what Donald Trump's executive order tried to do was say anyone who was born of someone who was not here lawfully or who was here on some sort of temporary status, that person's baby would not automatically be a citizen. It's a very it's probably, of all the Trump actions that have been taken to date, Brianna, this one is the most challenging because what it does is it flies in the face of the 14th Amendment that was adopted in 1868, and it flies in the face of an 1898 Supreme Court precedent that said even if you were born of, in that case it happened to be a Chinese national, even if you were born of someone who is not here as a U.S. citizen, you definitely still have citizenship here in the U.S., Brianna.
Order that would be allowing a president to amend.
It's so bizarre because everything they're saying is right, but the conservatives still watch this and go, haha, yeah, salty liberals. Yeah, cry.
Our Constitution. To change our Constitution by an executive order of the sitting president. That's what the Supreme Court would be setting up. Do you realize what the road would be for progressing on with that? If a president can change our Constitution by an executive order when the text of the Constitution could not be clearer, and the Supreme Court just says, yep, president can do that, it's over. We no longer have a constitutional society. It is over, because what else can the president change by executive order? If the Supreme Court says, yeah, he can change the Constitution with an executive order, and not just citizens. So citizenship would clearly be up for grabs. You upset the president, you report something he doesn't want reported, okay, we're going to strip your citizenship because you're giving him that power. But everything else then, the whole Constitution becomes negotiable. Does the president think that we shouldn't apply the First Amendment? Does the president think we shouldn't apply the Second Amendment? What about if there's a president on there, MAGA, that you don't agree with? You want to give the precedent that they can change the Constitution just by an executive order? I cannot overstate the importance of this. Pay attention, and we need to be vocal about this.
True.
They are burning our Constitution. Go love your neighbor.
Lord Jesus, we can't get a freaking break. And so now the Supreme Court is agreeing to take up the case based on the merits. Unfortunately, because of the way the Supreme Court is currently set up, anytime they agree to hear a case, I'm like, we losing. We're losing it. We're losing. Because that's just the way it goes for most of the cases that they've been taking up. Not all. I'm not going to sit here and say all, but for most of them, they've been siding with y'all's president. So I can't imagine how they would in this case, but I don't know, y'all. I'm skeptical. Now, I am going to keep my eye on this, and I'm going to obviously keep you guys posted, but this is where we are. The Supreme Court is taking up the birthright citizenship case. I don't know why they wouldn't just decline to take this case on the grounds that this is already established law. Like, this is established. You're a citizen. It's in the Constitution. We're done. But
you heard that. Full blown panic from liberals and the left, right? Yeah, I mean, we
just
all
respond to what they say.
Birthright citizenship is the crux.
Like, this is why these people will not debate anymore. They're incapable of actually responding to a point that's made. Like, they're literally playing the clips and then strawmanning them in real time. It's actually a pretty good skill to be able to play a clip of someone and strawman it in, like, after you've already seen what they really said. Granted, the left isn't great at simplifying their explanations of these somewhat, not even complicated, but relatively complex issues. And so it's easy for just some dumb, numbskull conservative to be like, did they say black people are disabled? And people are like, yeah, they did. What? That's the real racism. And none of them, just the point completely flies over everybody's heads. Man, this video made me want to delete System 32 in my own brain. My own brain's operating system. That was some real cancer that we just consumed. I'm not gonna lie. I was not a fan of that one. If you managed to survive this video, and you enjoyed my coverage of it, then please consider leaving a like and a comment down below. It really does help a lot, and it means the world to me. Thank you. It's totally free as well. Subscribe and ring the bell icon if you want to make sure that YouTube tells you when I go live or upload new videos in the future. And make sure to hype my video down below if you want to boost it in the algorithm, and you've commented enough in the past for YouTube to have unlocked the hype button for you on my channel. And of course, if you want to comment something specific, comment down below. White conservative cringe. If you don't know what to comment, it really does help, and it tells me you watched this far in the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.